So again, welcome you to the next part of communication, which is barriers in communication, which is a very important topic. So we have physical barriers. So initially when we started having these online classes, we had such a very difficult barrier. The reason I switched to my laptop is that I had a serious problem with a headset. So I kept changing my headset, but people constantly kept telling me I am not able to hear. Then they were not able to hear. So I didn't know how to hold my speaker, hold it like this. I didn't know what to do. So then I decided, oh, that's not going to work, because if again, mostly in classes we drain our energy by asking students to keep quiet, and here people keep telling you, ma'am, I can't hear you. That becomes really troublesome, bothersome, and drains your energy. So I didn't want to do that. Okay, so physical barrier, it could be the distance, people. Sometimes a few days back I was reading an article about counseling. Okay, so few counselors feel online counseling is very effective. Okay, they say even people for whom distance is a problem, barrier, they are able to contact us over phone, and they're able to counsel. But few others feel no, counseling done over the phone is not effective counseling, because as we previous audio that we did, we saw how a person's gesture, posture, eye contact, facial expression all go a long way in communicating what they wish to say. So physical barrier, he says, is distance is a serious barrier, and mic is a physical barrier, as all of us know. Okay, so psychological barrier is that's where you could even, some people get this writer's block. You might be aware of that, where they are not at all able to write anything. Even great writers at later stages in their life, they have this writer's block. They don't really get bump into any idea. They're not able to write anything. But even in a personal life, when a person is upset and you go tell them something, the communication does not pass through. And I might be just physically present and nodding my head and all that, because something is bothering me here. Whatever you say will not reach me. Okay, that's the psychological barrier. Then you have the language barrier, where we find it so rampant among college students. Every recording that I do, only for the PGs, I'm doing it only in English. For my B stream people, I do the recording both in English and Tamil. I repeat the same in English also, because I don't want people to miss out on real good things, because language is a barrier for them. I teach them so much about leadership, even this communication stuff and all that, and people have this language mental barrier which says, whatever you tell me, I don't understand. Okay, so that is a very important language barrier. And under language barrier, even see, suppose I am a literature student, my son is into the medical line. Whatever terms that he uses, I might not understand, and whatever terms in literature that I use, he might necessarily need not understand. Okay, so the way I talk to you about Shakespeare will not be the same way I talk to a PhD research scholar about Shakespeare. Okay, suppose I talk to you about structuralism, post-structuralism, okay, I talk to you about feminism and all those stuff, maybe you might not be able to understand. But when I talk to a scholar who's doing a research on these topics, so that is the language barrier. I just wanted to show you a few things. Okay, some of it you might be familiar: simile, okay, metaphor, personification, hyperbole. When you exaggerate something, it's called hyperbole. But if I'm going to tell a non-literary student hyperbole, don't use hyperbole, he might not understand. Metaphor, when you compare something with something else using like, okay, you say, she smiles like the sun, it's a simile. She is a sun in her smile, that's a metaphor. Okay, so personification, when a non-living thing is taken to the level of a living thing and personified. Okay, suppose I call this table a he or she. Okay, it becomes a personification. Then onomatopoeia is where the sound itself. Cuckoo sound. Okay, you have the term cuckoo. So when the noise or the sound that people produce itself becomes the name of the word, it becomes onomatopoeia. And idiom, you know, you don't look at separate words, but together you take the complete meaning. Take your chair does not mean taking your chair. It means sit down. Okay, so he kicked the bucket means he's no more. He died. Okay, it's not like kicking the bucket. So these are few examples of language barrier. So when I am a scholar or I am a person of a particular discipline, and I talk to people using my own specialized terms and jargons and they don't understand, okay, there is a serious language barrier. I just got you a few, idioms. Cat got your tongue means, you cannot speak. Okay, snug as a bug in a rug. Okay, snug as a bug in the rug means you're so cozy and warm that you don't want to do anything. Go the extra mile means take an extra effort. Butterflies in my stomach does not necessarily mean butterflies are there. It just means, I'm very, very nervous. And go down in flames means how did the project go? It went down in flames, which means it was a terrible failure. Then once in a blue moon is something rarely happens. So when I use this with a beginner, with my B stream, obviously they might not make out any sense from that. Okay, so language barrier. Now we move on to this classroom communication, and I want you to know classroom communication is cognitive, cognitive, cognitive in nature. Okay, so when I tell you it's cognitive in nature, then there should be few other contrasts also. Okay, so you have this psychomotor learning type of learning, but cognitive aptness sonna, it's a mental process. The faculty is telling you something, you are listening to it. So it's all got to do with your mind, your thinking, your understanding, your knowledge, your experience. So inside a classroom, the kind of communication that we are having right now is called cognitive communication. So, these are few communications that happen at the students level. The previous slide, I just wanted to show you the 3 types of communication that are possible as a student. Okay, you should be aware of as a student. One is your cognitive, or as a teacher, as a trainer, as a professor, there are 3 things that I have to make sure that I have communicated through my teaching. One is I have to make sure that you have this cognitive growth. After me talking to you, that there should be some real upgradation of your knowledge, increase in your knowledge. So this is the cognitive domain. Okay. Next comes the affective domain. Affective domain is exactly what I do with every topic of mine. I impact your attitude, behavior, your perception by always connecting it to your personal life and your professional life, whereby I am having a positive impact, or I always wish I have a positive impact on your attitude and your behavior. That is called the affective domain. So as a teacher, my communication to you should take care of the cognitive domain, it should take care of the affective domain, and thirdly, it should, psychomotor domain is not something that is mostly possible inside a classroom. Most of these sports related people and people who are excel in sports show this psycho means mind. Okay, motor means activity. So when the mind and your activity are coordinated, it's called psychomotor domain. So I just recently so that's exactly it, how your brain breaks affect our student. How do brain breaks affect our student? So I just wanted to share this movie. I watched this movie by John Lee. Okay, The Blind Side. Okay, it's a beautiful movie about how a black guy is adopted by white parents. Okay, this black guy is adopted by white. It's a real life story where this guy shows psychomotor excellence. He is a great sportsman, but when it comes to cognitive domain, he's not very good in his cognitive learning, his learning skills. He's not very good. But psychomotor, he's a soccer player. Okay, and he scores 9.5 out of 10 on his psychomotor capability. He has this protective instinct that he goes in a car with a kid kids shouldn't be traveling sitting next to the driver. Okay, so that happens, and the car crashes, meets with an accident, and the people who investigate, they say kids sitting in the front row, there's no chance the kid could be saved. But when the air bag fails to open up to protect, he uses his hands, okay, to save the kid, and his hand is so badly hurt. So he is born with this high level of instinctive psychomotor behavior. So I'm telling you so much because without knowledge you will not be able to really think, get ideas right. Anything that I'm telling you, if it inspires you, do more research into it so that you are able to do justice, okay, at your digital communication level.